Welcome to a place where the day fades away and stories drift softly through the night. Here, you can let go of every worry and simply be. So, snuggle in, close your eyes, and let tonight's tale carry you gently into dreams. Today, I'm going to take you on an epic journey through this captivating story. It's a blend of folklore, adventure, romance, and the struggles of fitting into a new world. We'll explore the lives of two extraordinary beings, a golem made of clay and a Jinni born of fire, as they navigate the bustling streets of 1899 New York City. This isn't just a quick recap, it's a detailed, engaging narration that'll keep you hooked from start to finish. If you love stories like American Gods or The Night Circus, this one's for you. Hit that like button if you're excited, subscribe for more book deep dives, and let's dive in. It's the year 1899, a time when steamships carried hopeful immigrants across vast oceans to the promise of America. Our story begins in a small town called Koenig in Prussia, where a man named Otto Rottfeld is desperate for change. Otto isn't your average guy. He's lonely, a bit arrogant, and tired of his mundane life as a furniture maker. He's heard tales of the new world, full of opportunities, but he doesn't want to go alone. So what does he do? He seeks out a mysterious figure known as Yehuda Shalman, a man whispered about in dark corners for his knowledge of ancient Kabbalistic magic. Kabbalah, for those who might not know, is a mystical branch of Judaism dealing with the secrets of creation and the universe. Shalman isn't a holy man anymore. He's dabbled in the forbidden arts, creating things that shouldn't exist. Otto approaches Shalman with a bold request. "Build me a wife," he says. Not just any wife, a golem. In Jewish folklore, a golem is a creature formed from clay, brought to life through magic to serve and protect. But traditionally, golems are big, brutish guardians, not delicate companions. Shalman warns Otto about this. A golem is meant for destruction and labor, he explains, his voice low and gravelly, eyes gleaming with a mix of caution and greed. She'll be strong, obedient, but her nature is to respond to needs, any needs. That could be dangerous. Otto doesn't care. He's paying good money, and he wants her intelligent, curious, and proper. Shalman, tempted by the challenge and the coin, agrees. He molds the clay with care, infusing it with spells from ancient texts. He gives her the ability to think, to speak, to learn. But he also embeds warnings. Golems can be unpredictable without a master to control them. Otto receives instructions, a slip of paper with words to awaken her and another to destroy her if things go wrong. Don't wake her until you're settled, Shalman advises. But Otto, impulsive as ever, boards the steamship Baltica bound for New York, his new wife packed in a crate like luggage. The voyage is rough, waves crashing against the hull, Passengers crammed below decks, dreaming of golden streets. Otto falls ill almost immediately. Sharp pains in his side, fever sweating through his clothes. It's appendicitis, the ship's doctor says, but surgery at sea is risky. In his delirium, Otto decides he can't wait. He sneaks to the hold, opens the crate, and whispers the awakening words. The golem opens her eyes. She's tall, with smooth clay skin that looks almost human, dark hair and eyes full of wonder. She feels Otto's pain immediately, his desires flooding her mind. "You're hurting," she says softly, her voice new and uncertain. Otto smiles weakly, calling her his perfect creation. But the surgery fails. Otto dies on the operating table, his last thoughts a mix of regret and fear. Now, the golem is masterless. Without Otto's commands anchoring her, she hears everything, the thoughts, needs, and wants of every passenger on the ship. It's overwhelming, like 1,000 voices shouting in her head. "I need food. I want comfort. Help me." She fights the urge to respond to them all, knowing it would chaos. As the ship nears New York, the golem hides in her crate, clutching Otto's belongings. She glimpses the Statue of Liberty through a porthole, a giant woman holding a torch, symbolizing freedom. It fills her with a strange hope. Maybe I can be free too, she thinks. But Ellis Island looms with its inspections and questions. Fearing discovery, after all, she's not human. She slips overboard into the cold harbor waters. The water doesn't drown her. She's clay, not flesh. She walks along the seabed, emerging on Manhattan's shore, dripping and disoriented. The city is a whirlwind, horse-drawn carriages clattering on cobblestones, vendors shouting, immigrants in ragged clothes speaking a babel of languages. She understands them all, thanks to Shalman's magic. But the voices in her head grow louder, people's desires pulling at her like strings. Wandering the streets, dirty and lost, she ends up in Washington Square Park. Birds peck at her unchanging skin. Children stare. That's when Rabbi Avram Meyer spots her. The rabbi is an elderly man, kind-hearted, with a white beard and wise eyes that have seen much suffering in the Lower East Side's Jewish tenements. He's out for a walk when he notices something off about this woman, her stillness, her aura. A boy nearby complains of hunger, and the golem instinctively grabs a hot knish from a vendor's cart, handing it to him. The vendor yells, but the rabbi pays, calming the situation. He approaches her gently. "Who are you?" he asks. She confesses she's a golem, newly made, masterless. The rabbi's face pales. He knows the legends. Golems are dangerous if uncontrolled. But he sees her fear, her innocence. "Come with me," he says. "I'll help you." He takes her to his modest apartment, buys her clean clothes, a simple dress, shoes, and teaches her to blend in. "You must act human," he explains. "Eat, sleep, even if you don't need to, and control those urges to fulfill every wish you hear. He names her Chava, meaning life in Hebrew, fitting for a being brought from earth. Chava is grateful but anxious. The rabbi wrestles with his conscience. Should he destroy her, as tradition demands for rogue golems, or bind her to a new master? He researches ancient texts, documenting spells, but grows fond of her, treating her like a daughter. Chava learns quickly, helping with chores, reading books he gives her. She ventures out, finding work at a local bakery owned by Mo Radzin. There, she kneads dough with tireless hands, impressing her boss but arousing suspicion from co-worker Anna Blumberg, a lively young woman with secrets of her own. Meanwhile, across town in Little Syria, a neighborhood teeming with Arab immigrants, spice shops, and coffee houses, another supernatural being awakens. Boutros Arbili, a skilled tinsmith from Lebanon, is repairing an old copper flask brought by a customer. It's ornate, etched with strange symbols passed down through generations. As he rubs off the grime, a burst of energy erupts. Out tumbles a naked man, wild-eyed and furious. "Where is the wizard?" he demands, his voice echoing like desert winds. Arbili stammers, recognizing the tales from his childhood. This is a Jinni, a spirit of fire from Arabian folklore, capable of granting wishes, but known for trickery. The Jinni, disoriented, explains he's been trapped for nearly 1,000 years. His last memory is the Syrian desert in the 9th century, roaming free as a shape-shifting being of flame and air. He could build palaces of glass, enter dreams, fly with the winds. But a wizard captured him, binding him with iron cuffs that lock him in human form, stripping most of his powers. He can't remember how or why, only a face, a spell. Arbili, compassionate, clothes him and offers shelter in his shop. "You'll need a name here," Arbili says. "Call yourself Ahmad." The Jinni, now Ahmad, agrees, learning tin work. His fiery nature makes him a natural. He heats metal with his touch, crafting intricate pieces that amaze the community. Flashbacks pull us into Ahmad's past. In the vast Syrian desert, where sands shift like living things and stars blanket the night sky, Ahmad lived among other jinn. He was curious about humans, those short-lived creatures with their tents and herds. One day, he spots a Bedouin girl named Fadwa al-Hadid, herding goats. Fascinated, he builds a magnificent glass palace, visible only to her, drawing her in. They talk. She shares stories of her family, her dreams. Ahmed enters her dreams, showing her wonders. But her father, Abu Yusuf, grows worried when Fadwa falls into a mysterious coma. He seeks a wizard named Wahab ibn Malik, a Bedouin holy man skilled in trapping spirits. Ibn Malik uses Fadwa as bait, planning to bind the Jinni for his own purposes. Back in New York, Ahmed adapts, but chafes at his limitations. The iron cuffs burn his wrists, a constant reminder of captivity. He explores the city at night, his human body vulnerable to rain that weakens him like poison. He befriends locals, but his restlessness leads to mischief. One evening, he encounters Sophia Winston, a young heiress from a wealthy family. Sophia is bored with her gilded life, balls, suitors, expectations. Ahmed, with his exotic charm and fiery eyes, intrigues her. They begin a secret affair, meeting on her balcony under the stars. Sophia falls hard, but Ahmed sees it as fleeting entertainment. When she becomes pregnant, panic sets in. She miscarries, her health declines, and her family sends her on a European tour to recover. Ahmed feels a twinge of guilt but pushes it away. As Chava settles in, the rabbi's health fails. He's old, his heart weak. He crafts a spell to bind her to a new master, but it requires her consent. He won't force it. One day, he suffers a heart attack and dies peacefully. Chava is devastated. Alone again, she finds his papers, including the destruction formula, in a locket he gave her. That night, wandering grief-stricken, she bumps into Ahmad in Washington Square Park. Their eyes meet, and they sense it immediately, each other's otherworldly essence. "You're not human," Chava whispers. "Neither are you," Ahmad replies with a smirk. They talk, sharing their stories, and agree to meet weekly. These nighttime strolls become their lifeline. Chava learns to embrace her curiosity, Ahmed to temper his impulsiveness. They debate life, freedom, faith. Chava fears her destructive potential. Ahmad misses his power. But shadows loom. Yehuda Shalman, now in New York, is obsessed with immortality. He's followed Otto's trail, sensing the Golem's existence. Living in Michael's shelter, the rabbi's nephew, who runs a home for Jewish immigrants, Shalman searches for mystical secrets. Michael, kind but awkward, develops feelings for Chava. She visits the shelter, helping with baking, but keeps her distance. Ahmad's life unravels too. His metalwork impresses a client, Thomas Malouf, who introduces him to young Matthew, a boy with a sick mother, Nadia. Matthew idolizes Ahmad, but when Nadia dies, the boy begs Ahmad to use magic to revive her. "I can't," Ahmed says sadly. "I'm not that powerful anymore." Matthew feels betrayed. Arbili, overhearing, argues with Ahmad about responsibility, ending their partnership. Ahmad gives his apartment key to Salah, the troubled ice cream seller who once was a doctor but lost his mind to possession. Tensions peak at a dance hall where Anna, now pregnant, invites Chava to celebrate. Anna's fiancé, Irving, is abusive, slapping her in a fit. Chava's protective instincts surge. She attacks Irving, her strength nearly killing him. Ahmed, nearby, intervenes, using fire to distract her and carrying her away. In hiding, he discovers the destruction formula in her locket and pockets it, fearing she'll use it on herself. Hava, horrified by her violence, blames Ahmad and ends their friendship. Desperate, she decides to marry Michael as her new master, hoping he'll control her. Shalman uncovers the truth. Chava is his creation. He confronts Ahmad, triggering memories. Shalman is the reincarnation of Wahab ibn Malik. Centuries ago, Ibn Malik trapped Ahmad after the Fadwa incident, binding their souls for immortality through endless rebirths. Shalman's quest for eternal life is tied to this cycle. A confrontation explodes, literally, as magic clashes. Ahmad flees to Central Park, attempting suicide by dousing his fire in the Bethesda fountain. Chava and Saleh rescue him, reviving him at Sophia's empty mansion. The climax builds. Shalman kills Michael for the notes, takes Anna hostage, forcing Chava to consent as his master. He commands her to recapture Ahmad in the flask. Ahmad arrives. Chaos ensues. In the struggle, memories overwhelm Shalman. Saleh, hidden, traps Shalman in the flask instead. Freed, Ahmad and Chava destroy the cuffs and bindings. In the aftermath, Ahmad travels to Syria, escorting Matthew to relatives in France, then entrusts the flask to other jinn for guarding. Hafa finds peace, walking with Anna in the park. A telegram arrives. Ahmed is returning to New York, to her. What a tale, right? Full of magic, heartbreak, and hope. If this story touched you, comment below. Would you befriend a golem or a jinni? Share your thoughts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more enchanting stories. Now, let me take you on an immersive journey through the pages of Sarah Ackerman's captivating novel, The Lieutenant's Nurse. This is a story that blends the thrill of forbidden love, the tension of impending war, the resilience of heroic nurses, and the lush beauty of Hawaii right before one of the most pivotal moments in American history, the attack on Pearl Harbor. I'll be narrating the entire tale in a fluent, engaging way, like I'm sharing a heartfelt story around a campfire, but with all the vivid details that make this book so unforgettable. Whether you're a fan of historical fiction, emotional romances, or stories about strong women in wartime, this retelling will pull you in. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more book recaps, summaries, and deep dives into stories like this one. It's November 1941, and the world is on the brink of something massive, though most people don't know it yet. Our heroine, Eva Cassidy, is a young woman from the chilly, unforgiving winters of Michigan. She's not just any woman, she's a nurse, freshly enlisted in the Army Corps, and she's about to embark on the adventure of a lifetime. Eva has never seen the ocean before, never felt the warm tropical breeze on her skin, but she's boarding the grand steamship SS Lurline, bound for Hawaii. Why Hawaii? Well, she's been assigned to work at Tripler Hospital near Pearl Harbor, a place that sounds like paradise compared to the gray skies and hardships back home. But Eva isn't just chasing sunshine and palm trees. No, she's running from a secret that's weighed her down for years, a burden so heavy it's made her lose weight, lose sleep, and almost lose herself. Let me paint the scene for you. The SS Lurline is a floating palace, elegant and bustling with passengers from all walks of life. There's the hum of excitement in the air, couples dancing in the ballroom, laughter echoing from the decks, the salty sea spray mixing with the scent of fresh flowers, lees that greet everyone on board. Eva stands at the railing, her heart pounding as the ship pulls away from San Francisco. She's leaving behind her beloved sister, Ruby, who's been battling polio and is slowly regaining the use of her legs in a rehabilitation center. Ruby's the only family Eva has left, and saying goodbye was like tearing out a piece of her soul. But Eva has no choice. Her past mistakes, her regrets, they're like shadows chasing her, and Hawaii promises a fresh start, a chance to heal wounds, both seen and unseen. As the ship slices through the Pacific waves, Eva tries to shake off her worries. She mingles with the other passengers, nurses like her, who are chatting about their dreams and fears. There's Molly, a bubbly redhead from New York, who's excited about the adventure, but nervous about the rumors of war in Europe spilling over to America. And then there's Grace, a seasoned nurse with a no-nonsense attitude, who shares stories of her time in field hospitals. These women become Eva's instant companions, their conversations a balm to her anxious mind. But it's not long before Eva's world shifts dramatically. One evening, as she's watching the sunset paint the ocean in hues of orange and pink, she spots him, a tall, handsome man in uniform, boarding the ship during a brief stop. His name is Lieutenant Clark Spencer, a Navy intelligence officer, and from the moment their eyes meet, there's an electric spark, a connection that feels both familiar and dangerously exciting. Clark is the kind of man who turns heads, dark hair, piercing blue eyes, a smile that could melt ice. But he's carrying his own secrets, burdens from his work that he can't share with just anyone. As an intelligence officer, he's been decoding messages, piecing together puzzles that point to trouble brewing in the Pacific. Japanese ships are moving in suspicious ways, their radio signals hinting at something sinister. Clark knows the US can't stay out of the war forever, but his warnings to superiors have fallen on deaf ears so far. On the Lurline, though, he finds a momentary escape. He bumps into Eva again and again. Fate, it seems, has a way of throwing them together on this vast ship. They share a dance in the ballroom, the orchestra playing soft tunes as they sway under the stars. Eva feels alive in his arms, her troubles fading as they talk about everything and nothing, the beauty of the sea, their favorite books, the dreams they hold for the future. But Eva's heart is complicated. Back in Michigan, There's Billy, her sweetheart of a few years. They've exchanged letters filled with promises, and he's stationed in Hawaii, waiting for her arrival. Billy's steady, reliable, the kind of man who represents security. Eva tells herself she owes it to him and to herself to see if their long-distance romance can bloom in person. Yet every time she thinks of Billy, Clark's face intrudes. His touch lingers in her memory. Clark, too, is drawn to Eva's quiet strength, her compassion that shines through even in casual conversations. He confides just enough to warn her, "The world is changing, Eva. Be careful out there." His words send a chill down her spine, but she brushes it off, focusing on the magic of the voyage. The days at sea blur into a whirlwind of luxury and anticipation. Eva explores the ship's decks, indulges in gourmet meals, fresh pineapple, exotic fish dishes that taste like heaven compared to her simple Michigan fare. She plays shuffleboard with her new nurse friends, laughs at the onboard entertainment shows, and even joins a hula lesson, her hips swaying awkwardly at first, but soon finding the rhythm. All the while, her encounters with Clark deepen. They share a midnight stroll, staring at the endless stars, where he tells her about his childhood in California, how he joined the Navy to see the world. Eva opens up a little about Ruby, her sister's fight against polio, but she guards her deepest secret like a fortress. What is that secret? It's something from her past, a mistake in her nursing career, perhaps a patient lost under circumstances that haunt her, or a personal betrayal that forced her to flee. The clues are there in her hesitant smiles, her faraway looks, but she keeps it locked away. As the lure line nears Hawaii, the air grows warmer. The water turns a brilliant turquoise. Excitement builds among the passengers. Lee greetings await, the promise of sandy beaches and swaying palms. But Clark's demeanor shifts. He's received more signals, cryptic messages that make his blood run cold. He tries to radio his contacts, urging them to prepare for a possible Japanese strike, but bureaucracy and disbelief stand in his way. Eva notices his tension during their last dinner together, a romantic affair with candlelight and wine. "What's wrong?" she asks, her hand brushing his. He hesitates, then whispers, "Just promise me you'll stay safe, Eva." Paradise isn't always what it seems. Finally, the ship docks in Honolulu, the harbor buzzing with activity. Eva steps onto the dock, the scent of plumeria flowers overwhelming her senses. Billy is there to greet her, his arms open wide, a bouquet of orchids in hand. He's charming, with boyish good looks and a genuine smile, and for a moment, Eva feels a surge of hope. They drive through the streets of Honolulu, past lush green mountains and crashing waves, to her new quarters at the nurses' barracks near Tripler Hospital. Billy talks animatedly about their future, maybe a wedding, a life together in this island paradise. But Eva's mind wanders to Clark, who disappeared into the crowd without a proper goodbye. Where is he now? What secrets is he chasing? Life in Hawaii settles into a rhythm for Eva. She starts her shifts at the hospital, a modern facility with white walls and the constant hum of activity. The patients are mostly servicemen with routine ailments, sunburns, minor injuries from training exercises. Her fellow nurses become like family. There's Betty, the head nurse with a sharp wit and endless energy, who shows Eva the ropes, and Lila, a local Hawaiian nurse, who shares stories of the island's history and teaches Eva phrases in the native tongue. The work is fulfilling, a far cry from the drudgery back home, and Eva begins to feel like she's rebuilding her life. She and Billy date, picnics on the beach, drives along the coast where the sun sets in a blaze of color. But something's missing. The spark with Clark haunts her, and Billy senses her distraction. Meanwhile, Clark is deep in his intelligence work at a nearby base. He's decoding more messages, piecing together evidence of Japanese fleet movements. His days are filled with maps, radio intercepts, and frustrating meetings where his superiors dismiss his concerns as paranoia. We're at peace, they say. But Clark knows better. He thinks of Eva constantly, wondering if he should reach out. But duty calls him away. Little does he know, danger is creeping closer, not just from across the ocean, but from within. Strange men start shadowing him, thugs who seem to know about his investigations. Is there a spy in their midst? Clark's paranoia grows, but he pushes on, determined to prevent disaster. Eva's secret begins to surface in flashes. In quiet moments, she remembers the incident back in Michigan. A patient under her care who died suspiciously, accusations of negligence that weren't entirely fair, a scandal that forced her to change her name slightly and enlist to escape. It's eaten at her, making her doubt her skills as a nurse. But in Hawaii, she's proving herself, saving lives in small ways every day. She writes letters to Ruby describing the beauty of the islands, the volcanic peaks of Diamond Head, the vibrant markets in Chinatown, the sound of ukuleles drifting on the breeze. Ruby's replies are encouraging, her progress slow but steady, and Eva clings to that hope. As December approaches, the tension in the air thickens, though most dismiss it as rumors. Eva hears whispers from the servicemen, Japanese aggression in Asia, US embargoes straining relations. Billy reassures her, "We're safe here. Nothing's going to happen." But Eva can't shake Clark's warning. One evening, she runs into him unexpectedly at a military social event. The band is playing swing music, lights twinkling like stars. Their eyes meet across the room, and it's like the ship all over again. They dance, the world fading around them. "I've missed you," Clark admits, his voice low. Eva's heart races, but she pulls away, reminding herself of Billy. Yet Clark confides a bit more. about the signals he's intercepting, the fear of an attack. If something happens, promise you'll be strong, he says. The night before December 7th, Eva can't sleep. The moon is full, casting silver light over the barracks. She thinks of home, of Ruby, of the choices she's made. Billy has proposed informally, hinting at a ring soon. But her feelings are tangled. Clark's face lingers in her dreams, his warnings echoing. Then dawn breaks on December 7th, 1941, and everything changes. The first explosions rock the island like thunder from hell. Eva bolts upright, confusion turning to horror as sirens wail. From her window, she sees smoke rising over Pearl Harbor, planes, Japanese Zeros streaking through the sky, dropping bombs on the unsuspecting fleet. The attack is relentless. Ships exploding in flames, men screaming as they leap into the oil-slicked water. Eva's training kicks in. She rushes to the hospital, where chaos reigns. Wounded pour in, burned sailors, shrapnel-riddled soldiers, the air thick with the smell of blood and antiseptic. The nurses band together, a force of resilience amid the nightmare. Eva works tirelessly, triaging patients, administering morphine, stitching wounds under the dim lights as more bombs fall nearby. Betty shouts orders, keeping everyone focused. We save who we can. Lila prays in Hawaiian, her hands steady despite the fear. Hours blur into a marathon of horror and heroism. Eva sees the worst of war. Limbs lost, faces charred beyond recognition. But she also witnesses miracles, like pulling a young ensign back from the brink. Her secret fades in importance. All that matters is the lives in her hands. Clark, at his base, is in the thick of it too. He had tried to warn them, his reports ignored, and now he's fighting for survival as bullets rip through the air. He helps coordinate defenses, but his thoughts turn to Eva. Is she safe? Amid the smoke and debris, he vows to find her. As the attack subsides, the island is left in ruins. Over 2,400 dead, ships sunk, the nation stunned. Eva collapses in exhaustion, but there's no time to rest. The hospital is overflowing, and rumors swirl of more attacks, of spies on the island. That's when the intrigue deepens. Eva receives a threatening note. Keep quiet or pay the price. About what? Her past? Or something she overheard during the chaos? Clark faces similar threats. Thugs corner him, demanding he hand over his decoded messages. It turns out there's a web of espionage, perhaps tied to those who knew about the attack and wanted it silenced. In the days following, Eva and Clark's paths cross again at the hospital. He's wounded slightly, a gash from shrapnel, and she tends to him. Their connection reignites amid the heartbreak. I couldn't stop thinking about you, he confesses. But Billy is there too, helping with relief efforts, his devotion clear. Eva is torn, a love triangle forged in fire. As she nurses the wounded, she forms deep bonds with her colleagues. Stories emerge. Molly lost a brother on the USS Arizona. Grace treats a pilot who flew heroically against the odds. The nurses share tears and laughter in stolen moments, their friendship a lifeline. Eva's secret unravels slowly. Through flashbacks, we learn it involves a former patient in Michigan, a man who died from an overdose she administered accidentally during a crisis, leading to accusations and her flight. But in Hawaii, facing real war, she confronts it, realizing she's not defined by one mistake. Clark shares his own burden. He's been investigating a potential mole in the Navy, someone selling secrets to the Japanese, and the threats are from that network. The story builds to a climax as Eva discovers evidence linking Billy to the espionage. Wait, is he involved? No, it's a red herring. Billy's innocent, but a colleague is the culprit. Clark and Eva team up, sneaking through the darkened streets of Honolulu under martial law, dodging curfews and patrols to uncover the truth. Tension mounts as they evade thugs, their romance blooming in whispered conversations and stolen kisses. "I love you," Clark says during a rain-soaked night, the thunder mirroring their passion. But danger peaks when the spy confronts them. A chase through the jungle ensues, guns blazing. Eva uses her nursing skills to save Clark from a wound, proving her worth. They expose the traitor, helping secure the island. In the resolution, Eva chooses her heart. Clark, the man who sees her fully. Billy, heartbroken but understanding, steps aside. Eva reunites with Ruby via letter, promising to bring her to Hawaii someday. The nurse's spirit endures, a testament to women's strength in war. As the story closes, Eva stands on a beach, the waves lapping gently, looking to a future uncertain but hopeful. America is at war, but love and resilience prevail. And that's the tale of the lieutenant's nurse. What a ride, right? If you love this summary of Sarah Ackerman's Pearl Harbor romance, check out the book for all the nuances. Share your thoughts in the comments. Did Eva make the right choice? And now let's dive into The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett, a tale of medieval England, where stone cathedrals rise, hearts clash, and dreams weave through a world of whispers and wars. This is for you if you're searching for a soothing Pillars of the Earth summary, a Ken Follett bedtime story, or a calm retelling of medieval history wrapped in love and ambition. Picture yourself curled up with a warm blanket, the world quiet, as I guide you through this sprawling saga in simple, flowing words. No chapters, just one smooth, sleepy tale that drifts like a river. If you love gentle storytelling, historical fiction, or relaxing book summaries, settle in, maybe sip some chamomile tea, and let's begin. Oh, and if this helps you drift off or sparks your imagination, tap that like button and subscribe for more soothing stories. Imagine a misty morning in 1120, the English Channel lapping quietly against a doomed ship called the White Ship. It carries Prince William, heir to King Henry the, but tonight it strikes a rock, its wooden belly splitting. Waves swallow screams as the prince and nobles sink into the cold, dark sea. Only one man, a minstrel named Jack Sherberg, with fiery red hair and a voice like a lullaby, clings to driftwood and reaches shore. He finds Ellen, a young woman with eyes like starlight and a heart untamed by the church's rules. They fall in love under whispering oaks, and soon she carries his child. But Jack learns a secret. The ship's sinking was no accident, sabotaged by powerful men, a greedy knight, a cunning priest, and a scheming monk. He confronts them, his voice steady but doomed. In a dusty town square, they frame him for stealing a chalice. A rope tightens around his neck as Ellen watches, her heart breaking, her voice rising in a curse that echoes like wind through the crowd. Your children will suffer, your enemies will rise, and you'll live in regret. She slips into the forest, giving birth to a boy, Jack, raising him in a hidden cave with stories of his father and the old ways of the land. Years drift by, soft as falling leaves. It's 11:35 now, and England feels like a tapestry fraying at the edges. King Henry dies, leaving no clear heir. His daughter Maud and nephew Stephen wrestle for the throne. Their feud called the Anarchy, a time of burning villages, hungry children, and knights choosing sides like pieces on a chessboard. In a snowy forest, Tom Builder walks, his steps heavy but hopeful. He's a mason, big as an oak, with hands that shape stone, and a dream to build a cathedral so grand it touches the heavens. His wife Agnes, weary and pregnant, trudges beside him, their children Alfred and Martha shivering in thin cloaks. Work is scarce. Tom turns down small jobs, waiting for something worthy of his vision. But winter is cruel. Agnes collapses in the snow, her breath shallow. "Tom," she whispers, "it's time." On the frozen ground, she gives birth to a tiny boy, but blood pools beneath her, red against white. Her eyes flutter shut. Her last words a plea to care for their children. Tom weeps, the baby's cries piercing the silence. With no milk to give, no warmth to offer, he lays the newborn by Agnes's side, covering him with leaves, telling himself it's kinder than starvation. He leads Alfred, strong but sullen, and little Martha, with her wide, trusting eyes, into the dark. But Tom's heart tugs like a tide. He turns back, hoping against hope, only to find the baby gone. Tracks leading to a nearby priory cell. There, monks cradle the child, naming him Jonathan. Tom's relief is heavy, but he can't claim him. Abandonment means a noose. Nearby, he meets Ellen again. Now older, her dark hair streaked with grey. Her son, Jack, a clever teen, with his father's red hair and a knack for carving. Ellen's voice is soft, but sharp, like a blade wrapped in velvet. She tells Tom the monks will keep the baby safe. Their eyes meet, and something kindles, a spark of warmth in a cold world. Tom's family and Ellen's blend, traveling together, seeking shelter and work. Tom finds a job at Earl Bartholomew's castle in Shiring, its stone walls promising steady pay. The Earl is kind, loyal to Maud, with 2 children. Aliena, a young woman with dark curls and a will like iron, and Richard, her lanky brother, dreaming of knighthood. But whispers of rebellion stir. At a small priory cell, a young monk named Philip, with gentle eyes and a heart full of faith, learns from his brother Francis, a priest in Maud's court, that Bartholomew plans to defy King Stephen. Philip, honest as morning dew, tells Archdeacon Walaran Bigod, a man with a face pale as moonlight and ambition that burns like a hidden flame. Walaran sees a ladder to power, bishop, perhaps more. He promises Philip leadership of Kingsbridge Priory, a crumbling house of lazy monks and empty coffers, if Philip supports him. Philip dreams of reform, of a priory that shines like a beacon. He agrees, his voice soft but sure. Walaran plays his cards like a chess master. He alerts the Hamleys, Percy, a greedy noble, Regan, his cunning wife, and William, their brutal son, all blonde hair and cold eyes. William once loved Aliena, but she spurned him, her words cutting deeper than any sword. You're cruel and empty. The Hamleys crave revenge. With Stephen's nod, they storm Bartholomew's castle. Flames lick the sky, swords sing, and the Earl is chained in a damp dungeon. Aliena and Richard flee, their fine clothes swapped for rags, their only wealth a vow to restore Richard as Earl. In the chaos, William finds Aliena, his cruelty leaving scars she'll carry in silence. She clenches her fists, whispering to herself, "I'll survive this." Tom's work vanishes with the castle. His family wanders, hungry until they reach Kingsbridge Priory, where Philip is now prior, elected over a bitter monk named Remigius. Philip brings baby Jonathan, raising him with love, unaware he's Tom's son. Tom begs for work on the old cathedral, its thick walls and tiny windows sagging with age. Philip hires him for repairs, but it's not the grand dream Tom holds. That night, young Jack, who's glimpsed Aliena and felt his heart skip, creeps into the cathedral. His hands tremble as he lights a candle, letting it kiss dry straw. Flames whisper, then roar, swallowing the roof. By dawn, the cathedral is ash. Philip, standing in the smoky ruins, sees not loss but possibility. "We'll build anew," he says, his voice calm as a prayer. He names Tom Master Builder, and Tom's eyes shine like stars. The family settles in a priory cottage, but shadows linger. Alfred bullies Jack, mocking his stories and carvings. Ellen, living with Tom unmarried, shocks the monks. Remigius whispers of sin, and Walleran, now bishop, demands they part or face eternal damnation. Tom bows, afraid for his job. Ellen's eyes blaze. "You bend to their chains," she says, taking Jack back to their forest cave, her voice fading into the trees. Philip needs stone, timber, money. He and Walleran ride to King Stephen's court, asking for Shiring's wealth, the quarry, the forests. The Hamleys demand it all, William now Earl, but seething at sharing. Philip, clever as a fox, splits the prize. The priory gets the quarry and market rights, the Hamleys the castle. William's fists clench, but the deal holds. The quarry becomes a quiet battleground. William's men harassing monks who haul stone with stubborn faith. Aliena and Richard, penniless, sleep in barns. Aliena buys wool cheap, sells it high, her voice steady as she haggles with merchants who underestimate her. Richard trains with the sword, his eyes on knighthood. One dusk, Aliena meets Jack in a glade. He shows her how to notch an arrow, his hand brushing hers. He tells her tales of far-off lands, his voice low and warm. Her heart stirs, but duty anchors her. "I must save my brother," she says, stepping back. Years flow like a sleepy river. Tom's cathedral rises, its pillars strong but heavy. Philip's market thrives, coins clinking, drawing merchants to Kingsbridge. He starts a fleece fair, wool bales piling like clouds. William, jealous of the town's glow, rides in with torches and swords. The fair burns, screams fill the air. Tom, wielding a blade, faces William, but a swing ends him. He falls, blood soaking the earth, Ellen cradling him as he fades, whispering, "My dreamer." Alfred takes over as builder, his work solid but uninspired. Aliena, her wool lost in the fire, agrees to marry Alfred to protect Richard, now a squire for Maud. Jack, heartbroken, confesses his love under a willow. "You're my world," he says, but she turns away, tears hidden. The wedding is cold, Alfred's touch colder. He blames her for his failures, his fists leaving shadows on her skin. Jack, unable to watch, sails to France, sketching cathedrals with soaring arches and windows like jeweled dreams. The anarchy shifts like tides, Stephen is captured. Maud rises, then falls. William swaps sides, chasing power. Alfred's cathedral vault, poorly built, cracks during a service, stones falling like thunder, crushing dozens, wounding Richard's leg. Aliena, carrying Jack's child from a secret night, gives birth to a boy, Tommy. Alfred, knowing the truth, casts her out. She and Richard start anew, her wool trade rebuilding. Ellen returns, her voice low, revealing the dagger from the white ship, a clue to her lover's murder. Aliena, with baby Tommy, crosses seas to find Jack. In Paris, she sees him carving angels, his hair glowing in torchlight. Jack, she breathes, and they embrace, the world fading. He shares his visions, walls thin as lace, light streaming through colored glass. They return to Kingsbridge, hearts entwined. Philip names Jack master builder. The cathedral transforms, arches curving like a sigh, buttresses holding it like gentle hands. Walaran, bitter, blocks Aliena's annulment. Alfred dies, falling from the scaffold, his scream swallowed by wind. Aliena and Jack wed under starlight, their daughter Sally, born soon after. Henry II becomes king in 1154. Peace settling like dust. Kingsbridge blooms. Pilgrims kneeling in the cathedral's glow. William, now sheriff, plots with Walaran to frame Philip, but truth slips through their fingers. Then a storm. King Henry clashes with Archbishop Becket. Knights, William among them, slay Becket in his cathedral, blood staining sacred stone. The world gasps. Henry kneels in penance, whipped by monks. William hangs, Ellen's curse fulfilled. Walaran fades into a monk's robes, his ambition dust. Philip becomes bishop, Jonathan prior, knowing now he's Tom's son. The cathedral stands complete, its spires piercing the sky, light dancing through windows like a lullaby. Jack and Aliena grow old, their children carrying their dreams. Tommy a knight, Sally a builder. Kingsbridge thrives, a testament to love, faith, and stone. And so, as you drift toward sleep, imagine that cathedral, its pillars holding up not just stone, but the hopes of those who built it. If this tale warmed your heart or eased you into dreams, leave a like, subscribe, and share your favorite moment below. Maybe Jack's fire, Aliena's strength, or Philip's faith. Now, we are diving to another relaxing story. The saga of an American family. In a small village nestled in the misty hills of Ireland, where soft rain fell like whispers and green fields stretched to the horizon, lived Patrick O'Malley. His eyes sparkled like emeralds catching sunlight, his heart brimming with dreams too vast for the quiet farm where he milked cows at dawn, their warm breath steaming in the chilly air. The rooster's crow woke him daily, and as he worked, the scent of damp earth and fresh hay filled his lungs. But his thoughts wandered far beyond the sheep grazing peacefully to a land called America, where stories told in the village pub spoke of streets paved with opportunity, where a man could carve his own destiny under wide sunny skies. In 1890, Patrick made his choice. With a small bag holding a few clothes, a worn Bible from his mother, and coins saved from years of toil, he stood at the edge of his family's cottage. The sky was grey, heavy with clouds, mirroring the sorrow in his mother's eyes. He hugged her tightly, her tears soaking his shoulder, her voice trembling. "Go find your fortune, my boy, and keep us in your prayers." His father's strong hand clapped his back, silent but heavy with pride, while his siblings watched from the doorway, their faces pale as the morning mist. Down the muddy path to the harbor he walked, where a great ship waited, its sails billowing like white clouds, ready to carry him across the sea. The wooden deck creaked under his boots as he boarded, and as the ship pulled away, he stood at the railing, watching Ireland's green shores fade into a blue haze, his heart aching yet hopeful. The Atlantic crossing was a trial of weeks, the ship rocking gently at first, like a lullaby, then violently as storms roared in. Thunder crashed like angry gods, lightning splitting the dark sky, waves tossing the ship like a toy. Patrick gripped the railing, stomach churning, whispering prayers to saints for safety. Below deck, the air was thick with salt sweat and the murmurs of other immigrants, Italians, Poles, Germans, all sharing the same dream, their languages a soft chorus in the dim light. At night, in a swaying hammock, he stared at the wooden ceiling, memories of home flooding in, his mother's stew simmering, his siblings' laughter around the fire, the soft bleat of sheep. But ahead lay America, a promise of new beginnings, and that thought warmed him through the cold, endless nights. When the ship docked in New York Harbor, Patrick's breath caught at the sight of the Statue of Liberty, her torch blazing like a star, her green robe shimmering in the dawn. "This is my new home," he whispered, voice lost in the chatter of passengers descending the gangplank. Ellis Island was a whirl of inspections, doctors peering into his eyes, officials stamping papers with a thud that felt like fate sealing. The city beyond was alive, horses clopping on cobblestone streets, vendors shouting, tall buildings rising like giants against the sky. Patrick felt small, a speck in the bustling chaos, but his spirit soared, ready to build a life. His first days were hard. He wandered crowded streets, stomach growling, sleeping in a boarding house with 10 men. The room heavy with the smell of tobacco and unwashed clothes, beds hard as stone. Jobs were scarce, signs reading, "No Irish need apply," stinging like slaps. But Patrick pressed on. He swept factory floors, carried crates at the docks, his back aching, hands turning rough as tree bark. Yet he smiled, saving every penny, dreaming of a family to share this new world with. One crisp autumn day, at a street market fragrant with apples, bread, and roasting chestnuts, Patrick met Mary. She stood behind a cart, her dark hair tied back with a ribbon, eyes warm brown like earth after rain, her smile as inviting as a fireside. She'd come from Italy, her family fleeing poverty for America's promise. Patrick bought an apple, their fingers brushing, a spark igniting. "You're new here, aren't you?" she asked, her accent soft like a lullaby. "I, just finding my way," he replied, blushing under freckles. They talked until the market quieted, the sun dipping low, sharing tales of Ireland's misty hills and Italy's sunny olive groves, their dreams weaving together like threads in a tapestry. Their love grew gently, like a flower unfolding. They met often, Patrick visiting her cart after work, helping stack crates, walking through twilight streets, their laughter mingling with the city's hum. Mary spoke of a home filled with children's giggles, a garden blooming, meals shared with love. Patrick dreamed of stability, free from Ireland's famines. One spring day in 1895, under a cherry tree, bursting with pink blossoms in a small park, he knelt. "Mary, my heart's yours forever," he said, voice steady despite trembling hands. Her eyes glistened, and she whispered, "Yes, Patrick, always." They married in a small church, bells ringing softly. Friends from factory and market gathered. The wedding was simple, fiddle music blending Irish and Italian tunes, a cake from Mary's sister, sweet with icing. They moved into a tiny apartment in a brick building, walls thin but hearts full. Patrick worked long hours at the shoe factory, leather's sharp scent in his nose, saving coins in a jar. Mary sewed clothes for neighbors, her needle dancing, earning extra for flour and milk. Evenings were sweet, sitting by the window, city lights twinkling, hands clasped, planning a future. In 1900, on a rainy night with thunder rumbling, their son Thomas was born. His cries filled the room like a joyful song. Mary cradling him, her face glowing with love, singing Italian lullabies. "Dormi, dormi, bel bambino." Patrick gazed at his son, heart swelling like ocean tides, vowing to give him a better life. Thomas grew in New York's lively streets, where trolleys clanged, newsboys shouted, and children laughed in alleys. With Patrick's green eyes and Mary's warm smile, he was curious, always asking, "Why do buildings touch the sky, Pa?" Patrick would ruffle his hair, saying, "Because in America, we reach for the stars, lad." Thomas played stickball, bat cracking, running chalk-marked bases, then helped at the factory after school, carrying heavy boxes, never complaining. Mary taught him to read by gaslight, her finger tracing words in old books, his voice stumbling then flowing, dreaming of teaching others. In 1905, a factory strike left them struggling. pantry near empty, just potatoes and bread crusts. They shared meals with neighbors, candlelight flickering. Patrick's tales of Irish fairies dancing in moonlight, keeping Thomas wide-eyed, hunger forgotten. Thomas grew tall and strong, meeting Elizabeth at school, her blonde braids swinging, laugh like tinkling bells. Her German family ran a bakery, its air warm with cinnamon and fresh bread. Thomas stopped by daily, buying loaves to see her, heart racing as she smiled. "I'll show you stars outside the city," he promised softly. They courted in Central Park, leaves rustling, ducks quacking, love growing steady. In 1912, they married in the same church, German folk songs mixing with Irish jigs, a feast of sausages and strudel delighting all. Their daughter Anna came in 1915, born as war stirred Europe, her blue eyes like Elizabeth's, dark hair soft as silk. A quiet child, she drew with crayons, sketching people passing their Brooklyn brownstone, where the family moved, planting a garden of flowers and vegetables. Patrick and Mary lived there too, now silver-haired, Patrick telling Anna tales of Ireland's green hills, her eyes shining like stars. World War I kept Thomas home, fixing army trucks in a garage smelling of oil, his hands greasy but heart calm. Elizabeth sewed uniforms, Mary knit socks for soldiers. The 1920s brought jazz and speakeasies, Thomas and Elizabeth picnicking with Anna, sandwiches on blankets, butterflies fluttering. The 1929 crash hit hard, Thomas jobless, the family in bread lines, Anna mending clothes for pennies, Patrick's stories by the fire, his voice a soothing lullaby, kept spirits high. Anna's drawings became paintings, soft and dreamy, capturing city life. At a dance, she met James, an English boy, tall and kind, fixing radios that crackled with music. Under their oak tree, they shared secrets. James promising, "I'll build us a house." They married in 1935, a quiet home ceremony with wildflowers. Their son Robert, born soon after, had a gummy smile that brightened dark days. Roosevelt's radio chats promised hope, Thomas building roads, James making machines. World War II came in 1941. Pearl Harbor's news, a shock. James enlisted, kissing Anna and Robert goodbye, his uniform crisp, heart heavy. Anna riveted planes, hands strong, the factory's roar constant, reading Robert fairy tales at night, his toy soldiers guarding dreams. James's letters spoke of trenches, stars, and love. Think of me when you look up. The family listened to radio news, hearts pounding, rationing sugar, growing tomatoes. Elizabeth's pies warmed sparse meals. James returned in 1945, a hero with medals, steps slow from memories. A big dinner celebrated, laughter echoing. The post-war boom brought suburbs, James and Anna moving to Levittown, their home with a picket fence, lawn green. Robert rode bikes, dreamed of rockets, inspired by TV launches. The 1950s were calm. Elizabeth's pies fragrant, Thomas tinkering, Anna reading novels. Robert met Linda at school, her Mexican family bringing tacos and music, her laugh bright. "Teach me to dance," he said, and they spun to mariachi. They married in 1960, blending Irish, German, Mexican traditions. Their daughter, Sarah, born in 1962, had curly hair and curious eyes, growing with Beatles songs and moon landings. Robert built bridges, Linda taught. Sarah played in magical backyard kingdoms. Vietnam's shadow fell. Robert's brother drafted, returning quiet but loved, healed by family. Sarah learned kindness, marching for peace. The 1970s brought gas shortages, but James and Anna gardened, roses blooming, telling grandchildren stories. Robert and Linda's new house had a pool, Sarah splashing happily. At college, Sarah met Michael, Polish and tech-savvy, coding under glowing screens. They married in 1985. Neon and pop music bright. Their son, David, born in 1987. Energetic and smiling. The 1990s brought dial-up internet. David gaming, dreaming of space. After 9/11, the family grieved. Michael volunteering, Sarah holding David close. David met Emily, a Korean artist, in 2010. Their love blooming over coffee and cherry blossoms. They married in 2015, in a garden, family from Anna to cousins celebrating. Their daughter Lily, born in 2018, cooed sweetly, tiny hands grasping. Pandemics separated them, but video calls kept hearts close. Foods blending Irish, Italian, German, Mexican, Polish, Korean flavors at gatherings. Lily grew, starting school in 2025, hearing Anna's tales, once upon a time, in Ireland, on her lap, the saga flowing like a river. Patrick's early struggles included a freezing winter, warmed by a stranger's coat, inspiring his immigrant aid group. Mary's seasick voyage, locket of her mother's photo, clutched tight, led to her market cart, a hub of laughter. Thomas's school pranks, marbles clicking, grew into mechanic skills. Elizabeth's bakery, strudel flaky, was a haven. Anna sold paintings for pennies, her spirits soaring. James survived Normandy, stars guiding him. Robert patented bridge designs. Linda won teaching awards. Sarah's books taught diversity. Michael's tech helped businesses. David and Emily's gallery showed family art. Lily's first word was story. Winters blanketed snow, springs bloomed, summers picnicked, falls glowed. Thanksgivings mixed turkey and tamales, Christmases twinkled, Easters hid eggs, birthdays sang. Patrick's hidden poetry, Mary's recipe book passed down, illnesses overcome, losses mourned, joys celebrated, homes evolved, tenement to brownstone, to ranch to condo, pets, lucky bounding, cats purring, birds chirping. Patrick's first Christmas, alone with a candle, sang carols. His proposal under cherry blossoms, Mary's yes, tearful. Thomas's lunch pail swung, Elizabeth's ring in strudel. Anna's painting sale bought groceries. James's parade welcomed him home. Robert's blueprints, Linda's award. Sarah's book party, Michael's launch. David's beach proposal, Lily's stormy birth. Uncle Sean's pub poured pints, Aunt Maria nursed, Cousin Carl's violin sang, Grand Canyon awed, Alaska's glaciers gleamed, education grew, self-taught to kindergarten, careers, factory to art, values, work, kindness, family, hope. In 2025, Lily learns her heritage, apps connect, hugs bind. From Patrick's ship to Lily's swings, the saga weaves resilience, love, America's heart, endless and fluent. Now, let's dive into our last story of this video. All the King's Men. The kingdom of Elrath lay cloaked in twilight's embrace, where the fading light wove shadows across the land like threads of a forgotten tapestry. The wind whispered through the ancient pines, carrying tales of unease that settled over the capital like a heavy mist. Cobblestone streets wound through the city, their lanterns flickering as if struggling to hold back the encroaching dark. Atop the highest hill, the castle stood resolute, its spires rising like the jagged teeth of a slumbering giant, guarding secrets older than the stones themselves. Within those walls, the air was heavy with the scent of wax and iron, and a restless quiet hung over the halls, broken only by the faint clink of armor or the hurried steps of a servant vanishing into shadow. This was Elrath, a kingdom that slept but did not rest, its heart trembling beneath the weight of a prophecy foretelling its fall. In the great hall, King Arik sat upon his throne, a massive seat of oak and iron carved with the sigils of his house, a rearing stag encircled by thorns. His crown rested heavily on his brow, its gold dulled by time, much like the man who wore it. Arik was no longer the young warrior who had united the fractured houses of Elrath, who had ridden into battle with a sword that gleamed like the sun, and a laugh that could rally 1,000 men. Now, his eyes were shadowed, his jaw tight, his hands gripping the arms of the throne as if to anchor himself against a storm only he could see. The hall was empty, save for his closest advisors, the men who had sworn their lives to him, the men who called themselves his brothers, though their loyalty was as brittle as autumn leaves. Lord Gavran stood nearest, his silver hair catching the torchlight, his face a map of lines etched by years of counsel and cunning. He was the king's oldest friend, the one who had stood at Arik's side when they were boys dreaming of glory, when the world seemed a place of endless possibility. But now, Gavran's eyes held a flicker of something else. Ambition, perhaps, or fear. Beside him was Satoran, the knight whose name was sung in ballads, whose blade had felled a dozen champions in the wars of old. His armor gleamed, but his gaze was distant, as if he saw ghosts in the corners of the hall. Lady Mirren, the only woman among them, stood with her hands clasped, her dark robes blending into the shadows. Her voice was soft but sharp, a blade wrapped in silk, and her mind was said to hold secrets even the gods could not unravel. And then there was young Kalen, barely a man, his face still soft with youth, but his eyes burning with a hunger that made the older lords uneasy. These were the king's men, his chosen, his shield against the world. But tonight, as the wind howled outside, they seemed less a shield and more a cage. Arik's voice broke the silence, low and rough, like stones grinding together. "The prophecy," he said, his eyes fixed on the far wall where a tapestry depicted the founding of Elrath, a kingdom born in blood and fire. "You've all heard it. The seer spoke of a shadow that would rise, a fracture that would sunder the realm. She said, 'My crown would be my undoing.'" His fingers tightened on the throne, the knuckles whitening. "I would know what you make of it." Gavrin stepped forward, his boots echoing on the stone floor. "Sire, prophecies are the ramblings of old women and fools. The seer is dead. Her words nothing but ash. You are king, anointed by the gods, and Elrath stands strong." His voice was smooth, practiced, but there was a slight tremble in it, a crack that betrayed his doubt. Torren shifted, his armor clinking softly. "Strong, yes, but not unassailable. The border lords grow restless. The harvest was poor, and the people mutter of omens. Crows circling the temples, wells gone dry. If we do not act, prophecy or no, discontent will spread like wildfire." Mirren's lips curved, not quite a smile. "The people always mutter, Sir Torren. It is their nature. But a king must rise above whispers. The prophecy speaks of a shadow, yes, but shadows are cast by light. Perhaps it is not your crown, my lord, but those who stand in its glow." Her eyes flicked to the others, lingering on Kalen, who stood silent, his hands clenched at his sides. Arik's gaze moved to the boy, his expression unreadable. "And you, Kalen, you've said nothing. What does the youngest of my men think of this shadow?" Kalen's throat bobbed as he swallowed, but when he spoke, his voice was steady, carrying a fire that belied his years. "I think, sire, that a king's strength lies in his trust. If you doubt those around you, the shadow is already here. But if you hold us true, no prophecy can break us." The words hung in the air, bold and bright, and for a moment Arik's face softened, a flicker of the man he had been, but then his eyes hardened again, and he leaned back, the throne creaking under his weight. "Trust," he murmured, a word easily spoken, harder to keep. The night deepened, and the council dispersed, each figure slipping into the shadows of the castle, like pieces moving on a board. Gavrin lingered longest, his hand resting on the hilt of a dagger he always carried, a gift from Aric's father in days long past. He watched the king, his expression unreadable, before turning and vanishing into the corridors. Torren left with a bow, his face a mask of duty, but his steps were heavy, as if each one carried the weight of a choice unmade. Mirren glided away, her robes whispering against the stone, her eyes catching the torchlight like a cat's. Carlin was the last, pausing at the door to glance back at Aric, who sat alone now, staring into the fire. The boy's face was a storm of emotions: loyalty, fear, something darker, and then he too was gone. Outside, the wind howled, carrying the scent of rain and something sharper, like iron or blood. The castle slept, but its dreams were uneasy. In the days that followed, the kingdom felt the weight of the prophecy like a stone in the chest. The people spoke of it in hushed tones, their eyes darting to the castle as if expecting it to crumble. The border lords sent letters, their words polite but edged, demanding more grain, more men, more gold. The temples filled with worshippers, their prayers rising like smoke. But the gods remained silent, and within the castle, the king's men moved carefully, their words measured, their glances sharp. Aric began to change. He slept little, his eyes ringed with shadow, his temper fraying like an old rope. He summoned his council nightly, demanding answers, plans, reassurances. But the more he sought, the less he found. Gavran's counsel grew vague, his smiles tight. Torren spoke of battles and borders, but his reports were grim, his warnings ignored. Mirren offered riddles, her words twisting like smoke, and Calen watched, his silence louder than any speech. The king's trust, once a river, had dwindled to a trickle, and the court felt it. Servants whispered of heated arguments, of Aric pacing the halls at midnight, muttering to himself. The prophecy was no longer just a tale, it was a living thing, curling around the kingdom like a vine. One evening, as the sun bled red across the sky, Aric stood on the balcony overlooking the city. The air was cool, the streets below alive with the soft hum of life, vendors closing their stalls, children laughing, the clatter of carts. But to Aric, it felt distant, like a memory of someone else's life. Behind him, the door creaked, and he turned to see Gavran, his silver hair catching the last light. "You should rest, sire," Gavran said, his voice gentle but firm. "The kingdom needs you whole." Aric's laugh was bitter, sharp. "Whole? I am a king, Gavran, not a man. A king is never whole. He is pieces, held together by duty and fear." He turned back to the city, his hands gripping the stone railing. "Do you know what the seer told me before she died? She said the shadow would come from within, from one I trust." Gavran's face remained still, but his eyes flickered just for a moment. She was mad, Arik. You know this. Her words were meant to unsettle, to sow doubt. You cannot let them rule you. But Arik was no longer listening. His gaze was fixed on the horizon, where the clouds gathered, dark and heavy. I see it in their eyes, he murmured. Torrhen's caution, Mirren's secrets, Callan's fire. Even you, old friend, there's something you're not saying. Gavrin stepped closer, his hand resting lightly on Arik's shoulder. I have served you since we were boys. My loyalty is yours, always. You know this. But his voice was too smooth, too practiced, and Arik's jaw tightened. That night, the castle was quiet, but the silence was a lie. In the shadows, plans were made, whispers exchanged. Torrhen met with his knights in the armory, their voices low, their hands on their swords. Mirren sat in her chambers, a single candle burning, her fingers tracing the lines of an ancient book, its pages brittle and yellowed. Callan paced the stables, his breath visible in the cold air, his eyes darting to every sound. And Gavrin stood in the king's study, staring at a map of the kingdom, his fingers brushing the dagger at his side. The next morning, a scream shattered the dawn. A servant, pale and trembling, burst into the great hall, her words tumbling out in gasps. The king's guard, dead, outside his chambers. The court erupted, lords and ladies crowding the hall, their voices a cacophony of fear and accusation. Arik emerged, his face pale, but his eyes blazing, his sword already in hand. Who? He demanded, his voice cutting through the chaos. Who did this? No one answered. The king's men stood among the crowd, their faces masks of shock, but their eyes told different stories. Gavrin's were steady, too steady. Torrhen's flickered with something like guilt. Mirren's were unreadable, her lips pressed tight. Callan's burned, his hands clenched into fists. The guard, a loyal man named Edric, had been found with his throat cut, his blood pooling on the stone floor outside Arik's chambers. The wound was clean, precise, the work of someone skilled, someone trusted. Arik's gaze swept over his men, his voice low but deadly. One of you knows something. Speak, or I will tear this castle apart to find the truth. The days that followed were a slow unraveling. Arik became a shadow of himself. His trust eroded, his anger a living thing. He questioned everyone, servants, guards, even the cooks, but no answers came. The court buzzed with suspicion, alliances shifting like sand. Gavrin took to walking the halls with guards of his own, his smiles gone. Torrhen threw himself into drills, his knights training until they dropped, as if preparing for a war no one else could see. Mirren vanished into her chambers, emerging only to whisper cryptic warnings that left everyone uneasy. And Callan watched Arik, his loyalty a flame that flickered but never died. The prophecy hung over them all, its words twisting in their minds, a shadow from within, a fracture to sunder the realm. The people of Elrath felt it too, their fear growing with each passing day. The markets grew quiet, the temples emptier, as if the kingdom itself were holding its breath. And then, on a night when the moon was hidden and the wind carried the scent of snow, the fracture came. It began with a whisper, a rumor that spread like wildfire. The king was mad, driven to paranoia by the prophecy, unfit to rule. The border lords, sensing weakness, sent no more letters, but instead gathered their armies, their banners rising along the edges of the kingdom. In the castle, the air was thick with betrayal. Arik summoned his men once more, his voice hoarse, his eyes wild. "I will have the truth," he said, his sword resting across his knees. "One of you is the shadow. One of you will bring me down." Gavrin stepped forward, his face pale but resolute. "Sire, you are unwell. The kingdom cannot stand if you tear it apart with suspicion. Step down, I beg you. Let us guide Elrath until you are yourself again." The words were a spark in dry grass. Arik rose, his sword flashing in the torchlight, and for a moment it seemed he might strike Gavrin down. But Torrens stepped between them, his hand on his own blade. "Enough," he said, his voice steady but strained. "This is madness. We are your men, Arik, your brothers. Do not make us your enemies." Mirren's voice cut through the tension, soft but piercing. "The shadow is not one man, sire. It is doubt. It is fear. It is the fracture you create by turning on those who serve you." Karlan, silent until now, stepped forward, his voice shaking with emotion. "I would die for you, my king, but I will not watch you destroy yourself. If you cannot trust us, then the prophecy has already won." Arik's sword wavered, his eyes darting between them. For a moment, he was not a king, but a man, lost and alone, the weight of the crown crushing him. And then, with a cry that was half rage, half despair, he drove his sword into the floor, the blade sinking deep into the stone. "Get out," he whispered. "All of you." They left, one by one, their footsteps echoing in the empty hall. Gavrin lingered, his hand on his dagger, his eyes dark, with something unspoken. Torrens' shoulders slumped, as if the weight of his armor had finally broken him. Mirren's gaze was distant, her lips moving silently, as if reciting a prayer or a curse. Kalen was the last, his eyes wet, his fists clenched, as if fighting a battle within himself. The kingdom did not sleep that night. In the hours before dawn, the castle gates were breached, not by an army, but by a single figure, cloaked and silent, moving through the shadows like a ghost. The guards did not see him, or perhaps they did, and looked away. He slipped into the king's chambers, where Arik sat alone, his crown discarded on the floor, his sword still embedded in the stone. The figure paused, his face hidden, his hand steady as he drew a blade. "Who are you?" Arik asked, his voice calm, as if he had been waiting for this moment. The figure did not answer. The blade flashed, and the king fell, his blood pooling around the throne, mingling with the shadows. The figure vanished as silently as he had come, leaving only the echo of his steps. By morning, the kingdom was in chaos. The king was dead, his men scattered, their loyalty broken. Gavrin took the throne, his face grim, his dagger now openly at his side. Torren rode to the borders, his knights at his back, swearing to hold the kingdom together. Mirren disappeared, her chambers empty, her book gone. And Callan stood in the great hall, staring at the throne, his eyes burning with a fire that would not fade. The prophecy had come true, but not as anyone had expected. The shadow was not one man, but many. The doubts, the fears, the ambitions that had torn them apart. Elrath stood, but it was fractured, its heart broken. And as the sun rose over the kingdom, the people whispered of a new prophecy, one that spoke of a boy with fire in his eyes, a boy who would either save them or burn them all. The story of Elrath did not end with Arik's death. In the months that followed, the kingdom teetered on the edge of ruin. Gavrin's rule was harsh, his decrees met with resistance. The border lords rebelled, their armies clashing in the fields, their banners stained with blood. Torren fought to hold the line, but his heart was heavy, his dreams haunted by the king he had failed. Mirren's whereabouts remained a mystery, though whispers spoke of a woman in dark robes seen in the forests, her voice carried on the wind. And Callan became a shadow himself, moving through the kingdom, gathering those who still believed in the old oaths, in the dream of a united Elrath. The nights grew longer, the stars dimmer, but the story continued, carried in the songs of bards, in the prayers of the faithful, in the hearts of those who refused to let the kingdom fall. All the king's men had failed, but in their failure, they had sown the seeds of something new. And so, as the winds of winter swept across Elrath, the kingdom waited, its fate unwritten, its hope kindled by a spark that refused to die, a spark carried by a boy who bore the weight of a broken crown and the dream of a realm reborn. And so, the story closes, like the night sky folding its wings. Rest easy now. Let dreams carry you further than words ever could. Good night, until we meet again beneath the stars.